He's not wrong, is he? He's definitely wrong.
Okay, so what was it? Tuesday? Pretty sure it was Tuesday. Remember we talked about how I is the square root of -1?
Yes.
Yes.
Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
Yes.
And then today what we're going to talk about, which we're going to talk about a little bit, is taking I squared. Well, if I is the square root of -1, what's the square root of -1 squared? Are you sure it's 1?
What?
What happens with the square root and the square root?
It's 1.
They cancel, so it's -1.
Why not
Okay.
just, like,
What?
it's just like extra.
So extra. Okay, I would write that down if it were me. I squared is -1. Okay. Ready to jump into it? Get it over with?
Nope.
Rip the band-aid off. Alright.
There's no band-aid.
No band-aid, okay. So I want to know what the product of 7i times 3i is. Well, let's just pretend it's regular numbers. What's the product of 7 and 3? 21. So 7 times 3 gives me 21. Well, I times I is I squared, which is how much? So I squared is -1, and Molly says 21 times -1 is -21. Not too bad, right?
So when you square it, you just multiply whatever it is times -1 basically. Right?
Yeah, when you have I squared. B looks a little bit different. We got parentheses and we got the whole complex number, not just the imaginary part. So we do what we did with our factoring, and we FOIL. Okay. FOIL is my first. 4 times 2 is how much? 8. And then my outsides, 2 times 5i gives me how much I? 10i. What?
Just go right to
Because it's not I squared, it's just I. And then my insides, -3i times 4 gives me how much I? -12i. And then this last one, -3i times 5i minus 15i squared, which is -1, right? So plus 15. Okay. The way I like to do this is I like to simplify my number part and then my I part. Okay? So, like Devin says, this gives me a plus 15. So I have my plus 15 and 8. Well, how much does that give me? 23. Good. And then I have 10i minus 12i. How much I does that give me? -2i. Good. Now remember, we write complex numbers with the real part first, so the number part first, and the I part second. Okay? So this is our final answer. 23 minus 2i. Questions there?
So we just leave it with the I.
Yep.
Okay.
Like that first one, you didn't need to leave the I because that I squared was -1. Questions? Okay. So this one says, kind of got covered up, but I got 7 minus 3i squared. So I have 7 minus 3i times 7 minus 3i. Right? That's 7 minus 3i squared. So I'm going to do the exact same thing. Yeah, what's up?
So that's the final.
Yeah, the green one?
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to FOIL. My first 7 times 7 gives me how much? 49. 7 times -3i? -21i. And then again is another -21i. Then what about my lasts? What do I get there? I have -3 times -3, which is 9. And then I have my -1. because I have I times I. It's negative 3 times negative 3 is 9, right? Positive 9. And I times I gives me negative 1. So technically, negative 3i times negative 3i is negative 9. So I have, I'll use different color. Negative 9, right? And 49 simplifies to what? 40. And then how much I do I have if I have negative 21 and negative 29? Negative 42i. Good. Final answer. Questions? Not always. It depends if they're set up with both parts looking like the a plus bi. Whereas like this one didn't have that a part, it just had the bi, right? And what a good segue. This one, negative 3i squared, again, I don't have that a part, so that's just like negative 3i times negative 3i, right? That's negative 3i squared. Well, that's kind of like the end of that one. What's negative 3 times negative 3? 9. And then I have I times I, which gives me negative 1. I squared, yeah, negative 1. So this is just negative 9, which is the same thing that I got here. So if you don't want to do that middle step, that 9 times negative 1, that's fine with me. I just do it to double check. But pretty much, if you have I squared, you just change the sign of whatever your number is. Okay. Questions? No? Okay. All right. Have you guys ever heard of a conjugate? Yeah? Really? Good. What is a conjugate? Okay, an English conjugate. Okay, in math, pretty much what it means is you take your opposite. So like here, I would underline this. If I have a plus bi, which is my standard complex number form, the conjugate is just a minus bi. So instead of a plus, you have a minus, okay? It's just opposite. Kind of like when we did factoring, like x plus 5, x minus 5. Except we're talking about complex numbers. Okay. So this first part is just asking if the numbers are complex conjugates or not. So are they the a plus bi, a minus bi? Okay. So if I have 4 plus 3i, 4 minus 3i, are those conjugates? Yeah. So we're going to write C. How about 5 plus square root of 2, 5 minus square root of 2? Yeah, those are opposites, right? How about square root of 5 minus square root of 3i, square root of 5 plus square root of 3i? Yeah, that works. What about 3 plus the square root of 5i and 3 plus the square root of negative 5i? No. Our negative has to be outside the square root. Okay. Questions there? No? Okay. Alright. This next stuff is using that conjugate to write numbers in the proper form. Okay? So, I'm trying to think. In our denominator in math, it's kind of improper to leave square roots. Well, it's kind of the same thing with complex numbers. It's just technically improper to leave the complex number in the bottom. So we want to get rid of the complex number on the bottom by using the conjugate, okay? The opposite stuff. So all we're going to do, it's kind of like when we talk about opposite reciprocals, like 1/5, you multiply it by 5/1. It's kind of like doing that, okay? So all we're going to do is multiply the top and bottom by the conjugate, okay? Not just the bottom, the top and the bottom, okay? So here, my complex number part is this 3 minus 4i. So the opposite of that is going to be 3 plus 4i. And again, we want to do it on both the top and the bottom. Okay. Questions on where I got the 3 plus 4i? Just the opposite of 3 minus 4i, right? Okay. So the top part's kind of easy. All we do is distribute that 5. So what's 5 times 3? 15. Then I have plus 5 times 4 is how much? 20. And then don't forget that I. Okay. Top part's kind of easy. Bottom part is where we gotta do that foiling stuff. Okay. So like I said, we're gonna foil. So I have 3 minus 4i times 3 plus 4i. So my first 3 times 3 gives me how much? 9. And then what you'll notice here is just like with those factors we were talking about. 3 plus 4i gives me a plus 12i, right? And 3 times minus 4i gives me a minus 12i. So when you multiply by conjugates, what's going to happen in our next step with these two? They're going to cancel. So when you multiply by conjugates, that middle part is going to cancel. But back to this. Okay. Minus 4i plus 4i. Negative 16i squared, right? So my number part is negative 16. Then what's that I squared do? Negative 1. Okay. So next step, we're going to leave the top part, 15 plus 20i. Bottom part, we said this part cancels. Now I just have to figure out what happens here. That's plus 16. So I have 9 plus 16, which is how much? 25. So your bottom now becomes the nice part. Questions on that step? We got one more. Okay. Our last step, we just want to make it that a plus bi. So we separate out the left part and the right part, okay? Separate out your top numerator. And we're going to simplify in one step. Is that okay? You know how to simplify? Yes? Okay. So if I break the 15 over 25 in, I simplify that and it would become what? 3 over 5. Yeah, 5 goes in both of them. 5 goes in 15 3 times. 5 goes in 25 5 times. Plus, now I have 20i over 25, this part. If I simplify that, what do I get? 4 over 5i. Or you can write 4i over 5, that's fine. This is our final answer.
Can you leave it as one fraction or no?
I mean, technically you're supposed to break it up, but I don't get that picky. But this is your complex number form. Okay. Questions? No? Okay. For B, what should I multiply the top and bottom by? Minus 4i, good. 3 minus 4i over 3 minus 4i. You notice this time our top isn't as nice as last time. So we got to foil on both the top and the bottom. Okay. Top first, what is 5 times 3? 15. And then I have negative 4i times 5. Negative 20i. Negative 2i times 3. negative 6i, and then what happens when I take negative 2i times negative 4i? 8 times negative 1. If you want to simplify that, that's fine with me. I'm going to leave it like that for right now. Okay. Good on the top part? Okay, bottom part, 3 times 3? 9. Do I, if you want to do the middle part, you can. Do you want me to? No, that was convincing. So we'll just do the first and last. The last part, 4i times a minus 4i gives me what? Negative 16 times negative 1, yes. Okay, questions on foiling the bottom? Okay. So let's simplify the top. I have the number, real number part, 15, and what kind of 8? Negative 8, so what does that simplify to? 7. Then I have my complex part, minus 20 minus 6i gives me how much? Negative 26i. What happens to my 16 on the bottom? Becomes positive, and then 9 plus 16 gives me 25. And if we break it up, I get 7 over 25 minus 26 over 25. I.
So you can pick which you do that to, like on the top and bottom,
What do you mean?
foil it through.
So you always want to cancel out your bottom. So like on that one, you wouldn't want to multiply by 5 plus 2i, because you always want to do the bottom part.
Okay.
You want the bottom to be nice. Because like the top, you know, it still has that I, but our bottom is just 25. That was a good question though. Did I answer that? Any other questions? Okay. Sure. We're like halfway done. Alright. This should hopefully look kind of familiar. Except for we just got imaginary solutions this time. How do you think I should solve 5x squared plus 20 equals 0? Move the 20 over. Good idea. So I have 5x squared equals negative 20. What do I do from there? Divide by 5. So x squared equals negative 4. Do what? Square root. So I have the square root of negative 4. What happens? Yeah, when I squared, I got a plus or minus. Good. What about just the square root of 4? What's that?
2.
What do I do with that negative part? Becomes what?
I.
Good. So we got all of our parts. Somebody said I got a plus or minus. Then somebody said square root of 4 is 2. Then the square root of negative 1 is I. So this is the square root of 4. This is the square root of negative 1. So our final answer, plus or minus 2i.
How do we get a 5?
How do I get rid of the 5? We divide by 5. Negative 20 divided by 5 is negative 4.
Oh, okay.
How do we do what? Get I. I have the square root of negative 4, which can be broken down into square root of 4 times negative 1. Right? Square root of 4 is 2. Square root of negative 1 is I.
So if it's a negative number, the square root of
You just follow I. Yep.
What if you can't get the square root of the number? Do you still
So like say what was the square root of 13?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you had like the square root of negative 13, you would just say I square root of 13. If you can't pull anything out.
So then you put the I.
Yep. Yep.
Oh.
We just pulled the I out because negatives make it look weird. That was a good question. Other questions? Okay, how about A? What am I gonna do with A? What's my first step? Subtract 15, so I have x squared equals negative 15. Now what do I do? Square root it. This is kind of what you're talking about, Hayden. Is the square root of 15 nice?
No.
No. So what do I do? Good, good, good. I have my plus or minus because we're taking a square root. Pull out my negative and turn it to an I, and then square root of 15. Now if you can, like if it was 8, you could have 2 square roots of 2, but 15 you can't pull out anything nice, right? 3 and 5 aren't nice. 15 obviously isn't nice. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yep.
Okay. Alright. Questions on that one? Okay. B, what am I going to do first? Add 5. So I have negative 3x squared equals 7. Negative 3. X squared equals negative 7 over 3. Then what? Square root it. So x equals, I'm hearing it, plus or minus I square root of 7 over 3. Now let's what I was kind of talking about with stuff that's improper in math. Technically, this says plus or minus I square root of 7 over square root of 3. And technically you're not supposed to have square roots on the bottom. So how could I get rid of the square root of 3?
You times it.
5. How about square root of 3? So we're going to multiply top and bottom by the square root of 3. So I still have plus or minus I. The top part, what is square root of 7 times square root of 3? Yeah? Yeah, square root of 21. What happens down here with square root of 3 times square root of 3? Just 3. Yes, sir. Okay. So complex numbers, i's we don't want to have on the bottom, and square roots we don't want to have on the bottom. Questions? Okay, 2 more. We can make it. Alright, we want to find all the solutions of quadratic equation. The first thing I always want to look for is, can I break it into my 2 sets of parentheses? So does something multiply to positive 5 and add to negative 4? No. So we're going to use our friend, the quadratic equation, where a is 1, b is negative 4, and c is 5. Please tell me that looks familiar.
Yeah.
You guys remember the quadratic formula? Okay, negative b. So I got 4 plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. I did ask. It was just really quick. Yeah. Oh, that's yours. You okay there? Okay, so I got 4 plus or minus square root. What is negative 4 squared? 16. 4 times 1 is 4. What's 4 times 5? So what's 16 minus 20? Look at that mental math. On a Monday after a long weekend. Mm-hmm. What happens with square root of negative 4?
Need the I.
I need the I. It's what?
Wouldn't it be 2i?
2i, yeah. So we have 4 plus or minus 2i over 2. So that negative 4 becomes, or square root of negative 4, sorry, becomes 2i. Need a little bit more room. When I break up my fraction, you're going to see that it simplifies. What happens to 4 over 2? 2 plus or minus what happens to 2 over 2? 1. So we just have 2 plus or minus I. You can leave plus or minus 1i, that's fine. Questions? Okay, last one. Ooh, not red. We'll do black. Alright. I think quadratic equations are the easiest way to solve these, but that means I gotta get everything on one side. So I'm gonna have 3x squared. Bring my x over, so minus x plus 2 equals 0. So what's my a? 3. What's my b? Negative 1. And my c is 2. So my quadratic formula, negative b, so 1, plus the square root of negative 1 squared minus 4 times 3 times 2, all over 2 times 3. Okay, we're so good at the mental math, let's do it again. I have my 1 plus or minus square root. Negative 1 squared is 1. 4 times 3, 12 times 2. So I have 1 minus 24, which gets me negative 23. Look at that. All over 6. Can I do anything with the square root of negative 23? Pull out an I, but nothing else, right? So I have 1 plus or minus I square root of 23. And then let's just break up the 6 there. Or you can leave them together, I guess. I'm not too picky. Okay. How do we feel? Questions? No? None? Not at all? Okay.